All right, welcome everyone. This is introduction to HTML. Now, before we dive into the course, just look into some of the reasons why it is vital for you to, as a beginner or someone looking to go into front end development. Some of the reasons why you should consider a career in front end development. The first one on the list here is that it has a high demand in the job market. Now, anybody going into front end and hasn't considered the job market, I don't think there's anyone like that because this is one of the first things we consider before making a career change or deciding whichever career it is we want to focus on. So, front end obviously has a high demand in the job market. There are so many businesses out there that's looking to go online and they're definitely going to need a front end developer. And number two on the list here is that creative and visual work. And then you also have rapid result and feedback, wide range of tools and technologies. If you are someone that is excited about working with different tools, technologies, here you have it. Front end is for you. You also have a flexible career opportunity. It means with the skills that you will learn in front end web development, you can decide to go into any other career. There are a lot of career options for you as a front end developer. You can decide to work in different industries. So the options are vast for you. So let's jump right into it. What is HTML? Of course, a lot of us already know that it is short for Hypertext Markup Language. It's a basic language used to create web pages. You can think of HTML as a set of instructions that tells your web page or your browser how to display text, images, links, and other contents on the web page. For example, you can use your HTML to make a text either bold or italic. You can use it to organize content into headings, paragraphs, and lists. It also lets you add links to other pages or embed images and videos. So to simply put, HTML um, is the foundation of every website you visit. So for every website you visit today, there is definitely a HTML under that website for the images you see, the text, the links, the tables, the list, whatever it is you see on that website, it was added by HTML. Now, right on your screen, you have a basic structure for a HTML page. This is how your HTML structure looks like. Now, let me show you how it does on a VS Code. Okay, so this is your basic HTML structure. We have your doc type declaration telling a document the type of document you want to use, which in this case is HTML. And then we have our root HTML elements with the attribute of language. And then we have our head. In this head, we have our meta elements with the character set, name, viewport, content width, and a lot more. This is where we'll also be connecting our CSS to HTML to be in this head element. And then you have your body. This is where you'll be writing all your codes, your images, you'll be adding your links, and literally everything you add to your HTML page is written in the body of the code. Now to the most important part, HTML elements. So what are HTML elements? We can see them as the building blocks of a web page. Each element tells the browser what to do with a specific part of the content, like showing a text, image, or link. Now this is each element usually has an opening tag, the contents, and the closing tag. Like an example we see here on the screen, you have your opening tag, then the contents right here, and then your closing tag. Now notice how your closing tag has a forward slash to indicate that this is a closing tag. Now if this is not included, your document will not know when to close your tag, and you're going to have some issues with that. Although there are some elements that are self-closing, we have our images, our links, input elements, and a lot of them that we'll find out when we actually start writing some HTML code. Now, let's look at some examples of these HTML elements and their functions. So, the first element we'll be looking at is the header element. Now, this is used to add the headings to your HTML page. Now it goes all the way from H1 down to H6, depending on the size of your header. So we can go H1. Okay, here you have it, your H1 element. And decide to change this to H5, and you see the size reduces. So it depends on the size of your header. So let's just leave this at H1. And that's it for your header tag. Um, Now the next tag we'll be looking at is our P tag, short for paragraph. Now this allows you to add paragraphs to your web page. That's a paragraph tag. As a P tag, you use it to add paragraphs to your page. Now the next element we'll be looking at is our link tag. Now we used it to add links to our HTML page. Now notice you have here href. Now what href stands for is hypertext reference. Hypertext reference. This is where you'll be putting the link of whichever page you want to link to this. So you can say, now notice it appears here as a link. I think I made an error. All right, this is me. Now notice it appears here as a link. Now there's one function in HTML known as concatenation. And what that does is it allows you to add an element inside of an element. And it's useful when you want to add a link to maybe it's a part of a sentence, not necessarily the whole state sentence. Um, Something like this. Let's get rid of this and add a p tag here. Now, I want this here to be the link. I don't want all of um, this statements here, this find out more about me or find out about me to be the link. Now, what I'm going to do is called nesting. Oh, I thought I said nesting. Nesting, actually not concatenation. It was nesting. So what I'm going to do here is nesting. I'm going to nest in our A tag inside of our P tag. Let's. So I'm going to copy this. Actually, I cut it. I paste it here. Now notice how this changes to a link. So what I have done is I have nested this inside of our P tag. Now this helps when you need just a part of your statement or your paragraph to be a link, not necessarily the whole element. So add the link here. Now there's an interesting function that you can play with your link here. It's called target. Now, what this does, it tells your web browser where you want to display whichever link it is you are clicking. And let's see an example. So let's just get a link from the web page, a random link. Copy this right here, and I'll paste it in the href. Has a lot of links. Now, notice what happens when I click this link here. You see, our link just loads up on our web page. Now, we might not want that to happen. So, what we can do is to add our target attributes, which in this case can be underscore blank. Now, what this does, it tells your browser to open this link on a new tab. And so what happens when I click this? Notice it opens right here on a new tab. So that's one way to um, direct your link to a new tab if you don't want it to be on you don't want it to overload on the web page. Let's get rid of this. Okay, and that's that for our link tag. We also have our image elements. We also have the image elements. Now this is an example of a self-closing element. Self-closing element. Notice we didn't have to add another element to close it. Now notice there are two attributes here. We have our source attribute and then we have our alt attribute. Now this source tells your web page the source of the image you are adding, which in this case I already have some images here. So I'm just going to say img and it gives me a direction which one I want to choose. First one, and I save it and our image displays. Now, the alt attribute is used in case of situations where your image does not display. Then your alt attribute will display. Now, I'm just going to write some stuff here. Now, notice I saved it, but nothing, there is no change here. That's because my image is displaying. But what if I alter this a little? Let's try and see. All right, notice it now. Our alt attribute is displaying here my picture. So in situations where your image cannot load, our alt attribute takes charge to give the our reader or our viewer an idea of what image is supposed to be here and is not here or is broken. So let's restore our image. So it's a very good practice for you as a web developer to always add your alt attribute to this whenever it is you're adding your image element. You should always have an alt attribute. Now, another element we'll be looking at before we move into forms are lists. Now, what are list elements? As the name implies, it's basically for listing out items on your web page. Now it consists of two. We have our ordered list and then we have our unordered list. So I'll just give us an example real quick. Um, Now this right here is our unordered list. Starts with UL and our ordered list is OL. Pretty simple. I don't think that should be an issue. Now let me just give us an example of the differences between our ordered list and the unordered list. Um, So here is a list of my favorite fruits. Now notice how this is listed out with bullet points. Now when I change this to ordered list, so the numbering changes. So that is the basic difference between your ordered list and your unordered list. Um, Now we'll be looking at HTML forms. Now, what are HTML forms? Forms are tools on a web page that let a user enter and send information like filling out a survey or signing up for an account. They are like digital forms you fill out online. Now, this is a basic structure of how your form would look like. You have your roots element here, which is the form. You close this right here with the form. You have your label, your inputs, and then your button. So this is the basic what is contained in your HTML forms. Now let's jump into our VS Code and see this in practice. All right, so we are back to our VS Code. Now let's write some HTML forms. All right. So right here is how a basic form looks like. Now let's add the button. So we have our label. This label is for our username, the type of input text. Now we can also add a placeholder here to give our user an idea of what should be in our input field. It's supposed to be here, not there. Now notice here it says enter your username. So this is a good practice. It gives the user an idea of what is expected to be in your input field. We also have our input, the type of password. Now notice when I type here, it shows in dots. That means it's a password, and then this is not supposed to be visible to other people. We also have the input type of checkbox or radio, depending on whichever one you want to use. And notice here our submit button. And notice when I click this, it says cannot get submit. So it shows you there is something that's supposed to be done. This form is supposed to be submitted, but then the functionality has not been added, so cannot get it at the moment. So that is it. There's also one function I would like to point towards before we round up, which is our drop downs. So this allows your user to select um, particular particular field. So how did you hear about us? Now notice how the first one is usually what is displayed in the select field here. So your first option should actually be the question you're asking. How did you hear about us? Or whatever it is you want to ask your user. And then the other one should be the options. Now, whichever one I click from there, from a friend, or from X, or from Facebook. Right here. So that's that for your options for your select. So that's that for drop down menus in your forms. Um, you can use your select element and the options to decide whichever options you want to input. All right, that's it for the class, guys. If you have any question, don't forget to drop it in the comment section, or you can reach out to me personally.